Okay. So, geopolitics, the very simplified basics. You have the red people, you have the green people, and you have the orange people. They all live on this river here. And over here, the river splits into two directions. Now, all the nations or the peoples require food, of course, and they require water for that food, and they have been surviving on that food for quite a while. So there is a history of them having enough food to grow a population and then grow into a city. So they have buildings there, and it all relies on the river. So if the river does not bring in water, they all suffer together, basically. So something goes wrong with the climate or whatever, so there's a bad year. The harvest is going to be bad everywhere, basically. It's going to be worse down here, I would imagine, but anyways. Now, let's start from the red people. So they hang around, and someone gets an idea. They're like, what if we could control this fork over here? And they start moving up the river, and whatever means necessary, whatever means they have in their possession, they can start to affect this place. So let's say that these guys are militarily very strong. They will wipe out this entire people here. And now they can start dictating what happens to the river. So they can build a dam and block this part of the river. These guys are in trouble now. So this inherently creates conflict. And the first action was taken by the red people. And the first action was what we consider in the modern world as an aggressive move, aggression. So they take something over that they had no claim to, and then they started controlling everything. So now they are very powerful, and they are gone, and they are weak. And these people are the aggressor. So you would not want these people to be in power, because if they dictate everything, you can already see what they're going to do with it. So they kill, destroy, block, and they start to blackmail and pressure and do all kinds of stuff. So that's not something you want to happen. So, in fact, this setup here creates tension naturally, because these people might always be afraid that these people will do what they're thinking about. These people, let's say they have no interest in changing the status quo because everything works fine and things are nice, but they know these people, and they know that these people are going to be afraid, and they turn fear into aggression. And once that happens, they know that if the aggressor takes this area, like I showed before, then these guys are basically screwed and the aggressor wins. And then everybody loses, basically. And because these guys are the aggressors, they're not going to be satisfied with this. They're not going to be satisfied with this, because after that, they are going to start fracturing because someone controls this. And the new power center would be around here. So these people will be like, all right, well, let's go over to here, and we'll send a delegation, and we'll say, please, if you can, allow the water to flow freely to us, because we need it. And in return, we'll give you like some of the crops or something. We'll send you a little bit of this, a little bit of the crops that we make as like a friendly gesture, but also we will be growing our military over here as well. So we are going to be equipping men with spears and bows. And we're going to make sure that this deal, like if you backtrack on the deal, that you can't just steal all the stuff we gave you and then do whatever you like with it. So we are going to trickle something for you, but just so you know, we are powerful. So these people are, because they are aggressive, they are powerful by nature, at least somewhat, so they are aggressive. And these people, because from their perspective, they have all the power, and these guys are giving let's say giving them crops, so they're satisfied, and since they are not aggressive, they don't really want anything more. They are growing wealth and population through this deal. So in a sense, these two regions are now intertwined. They are united because this population starts growing because of the extra food, and these people, they will grow extra food that they can bring here. But since things are pretty balanced and stable, only nature can come in their way, basically, in this sort of simplified version. So they have interactions with each other. They have mutual dealings, basically. So they're going to be much more relaxed and friendly and understanding. So they might not have any borders. They don't need to guard each other from each other. They get married with each other. Everything sort of works fine, but they are still separate entities. Now, these people might feel left out, but I would imagine since they are the aggressor, they might start to try and sabotage this relationship, because they might not be strong enough to take care of these and these guys at the same time. So they feel eternally threatened by their own aggression. So it's sort of weird how it works, but because these guys are constantly afraid, then they start building power, and then this power creates this sort of self-fulfilling purpose of just becoming militarily strong, and when the basis is sort of in fear, they want to try and disrupt all these things. So let's say that this group then becomes extremely powerful. They stock up and they start really gunning for it. Like they put almost everything they have into their military prowess, basically. So they start to extort these people. So they make a demand with with force that these guys will send them, keep the water flowing, and maybe send them a little tribute as well. And if they even think about blocking this river, they will conquer them. And of course, I need to add that these guys have their own military as well. So now you have a situation where there's friendly interaction, there's an example of it, then there's aggressive interaction, and there's an example of that, and then there's an example of this entire sort of system, how it works in a way. So now let's assume that these guys have had enough. They are too anxious. They're anxious all the time because they are they know that they're not able to do this because they are inherently aggressive, or their society is based on these kind of values and stuff that creates this tension. So they will gather their army and they will march up here and they will lay siege to this city. And now these guys, of course, are afraid. So these guys will have to also send in military over here. And the situation becomes forever, or just increasingly complex and annoying for everybody involved. So the situation itself is now is now a little bit, the situation itself, when you look at it from outside and you don't really know anything or understand anything, it looks like three cities, basically, just hanging out. And let's say that these people are intelligent and they make the first move. So they tell these people, they start making deals. And let's say these people aren't that happy because they demand something back. And there's nothing, let's say there's nothing to give. So these people preemptively, in order to secure this area, they might start to install some of their agents into the area. And the agents might be, let's say in this case, they might be very friendly. So they don't look to destabilize anything. They look to sort of tell the populace and affect the populace and the ruler and everybody here of their good intentions. So basically diplomats, but it might be underhanded as well, because they know or they are afraid that these people will make a move. Whether it's justified or not, they might send people here. And then let's say let's add one more village out here that's really far away, and it has its own water source, and it doesn't rely on any of this. So this village over here is looking at the situation, and they're like, hey, you are making these moves over here. And because they're trying to stay underhanded, because they don't want to they don't want to alarm anybody. They just want to keep this flow of water going, and they want to make sure that these guys won't get out of control and start blocking water that's been flowing there for thousands of years probably. They have their own people there. Now, what happens on the other side? These people do the same thing, so they start adding their own people here. Now, this area becomes a conflict zone of, let's say, ideas and manipulation. And we'll keep to the idea that these people are aggressive, so they don't really care about how things happen. So they might threaten people, they might pressure people, they might do all kinds of severe, violent things even. And these people try their best to sort of counter it by reason and logic. So they try to, explain things like, please don't create this tension out of nowhere, and these guys are constantly up their ass. And then it starts to look from this perspective, it begins to look as if there is two evil people fighting over land that isn't theirs and manipulating them. And this guy, if he doesn't understand the situation, he's going to be like, no, stop, what are you guys doing? And they are, in a sense, they're right. If both these people would stop manipulating the situation, it could be that the green people just forever, they're just going to be chill about it. So they don't really care. They don't want to cause any problems. They have no intention of it. They're happy and successful. But since we don't know the future, we don't know anything, we have to preemptively strike, because we already saw that if someone starts making moves, be it these guys or these guys are fucked, and they don't want to be, because that's like the basis of life. So I guess somebody could say that, all right, then we'll just stop eating and then be destroyed. But if you're that polite or that afraid or that sort of unwilling to live, then the aggressor is always going to win. So then the world will always be violent, and the methods will always be the worst methods possible. So if these people decide, no, there is a better way, and we want to at least keep it for ourselves. Anybody else can do whatever they want, but we want to keep this. And in order to keep this, we need to have people here affecting this region. And let's say the aggressor people, they start to become more powerful here because of their pressuring and everything. It might lead to a conflict between the orange people and the red people, where the green people because they were not careful and understanding, they will be trampled down in this conflict that, again, from the outside looks like there's two big guys fighting over this little guy here, when in fact everybody is trying to survive, but there is like an instigator, which always is fear, basically. So we know surrender doesn't work. We know aggression creates the situation. We know fear creates the situation. So what you need is deals, which is the modern world's way of handling stuff. So you write down a set of deals that you all make, and you promise to keep the deals. So the book of deals, and you all promise to take care of it in your own way, whatever. But you promise that, all right, we as the orange people will not encourage here, but we would like to have some assurances, so we'll like keep some people there, like in an embassy or something. So there's a little place here. These guys promise to do the same thing, and they have their own little embassy there. So now, even though there's pressure and stuff, if no one is able to really overcome this, these guys aren't able to overcome both of these guys. These guys know that they don't want to destroy the other people, just wanted to let them live because war is costly and it makes no sense to be the aggressor here. So they're happy with this situation, and this region here is going to be very wealthy because they are getting sort of the best of both worlds. So they might get weapons from here, they might get money and technology and resources from here, and they're just growing fat basically over here. But everybody knows that they don't want these people to get too accustomed to the situation, so they do keep a little bit of pressure here because of the deals that have been made. And the deal is made between all three parties, and the deals are kept even if the leadership changes, even if something goes wrong. And I would say if there's a catastrophe and someone fails the deal a little bit, like let's say they don't produce as much as they thought, you can write that into the deals as well. So there's, law is, it's very important to write your law in ways that ease tensions in all kinds of different situations. So law should not really rely on common sense that much, but everything else is good to rely on logic, reason, and then just sensibility. So this is basically how conflict happens in a place where the civilian population might be completely innocent. They were born into this situation. Everybody was born into this situation. So there's not really it's the nature of things basically. And our way is this. So what happens if this guy starts breaking the deal? So one of, let's say, the deals was that there will be no raising larger armies than a certain amount. So let's say that they have this is the amount that you are allowed to have. So a little bit of spearmen and a little bit of bowmen, just to keep yourself defended from random things. And this might come from, like, the reduction might result from mutual agreements to defend each other. So if these guys get attacked from somewhere else, then everybody goes in and defends them. And the same goes for all of these regions. So nobody really has to hold on to such a large army. They need enough to repel one of these guys, because everybody's made the same deal. And then if one of them breaks the deal, which is these guys, so they start making a larger army, and usually need more if you're the aggressor, so they start really building up. and they hide it. They try to hide it, but it becomes obvious to everybody that they are really building up. So what options are there left? It's not useful to blame these people for the aggression of someone else, because these are the guys who instigated it, and it makes a huge difference who instigates it and who breaks the deals. So they might find a loophole, and then we go to the basic thing that we talked about before. But over here now they're just all, they're hedging their bets. They're going all in, basically. They start building. So these guys need to quickly start building, and they need to start sending people here. And again, these observers over here are looking at it, and they're like, no, if you're not, if you don't take into consideration the steps that happened before, if you just jump into a situation and there's chaos, it's not an accurate or an honest perspective on what happens. So basically the lesson here is that we need to be preemptive, and that includes in doing incursions into this area by even by military means from this direction, in order to keep stability. So a real life example might be that everybody trades in dollars, for example. So let's just assume that every nation in the world trades in the US dollar, and they've basically earned it because they were the most successful. So it just happened to be. In the same way as there's Greenwich Mean Time, it's in a certain place in the world because they invented the system around it, and it's not unfair and it's not discriminatory. It's just sometimes you have to put something somewhere, and the best place to put it is where the person who came up with it wants to put it, basically. If it doesn't really make any difference, because you can put a +2 on there and then you're fine. So you just have a common system based on time. So the same goes with trade. It's easy to trade in dollars, and because it just ended up that way, that's the way it's done. So let's assume that these guys want to start trading in this money here, and these guys trade in the dollar as well. But since they're sort of the ignorant observer, they don't understand that if these people are going to try to keep the dollar as the trading currency, these people are sort of fighting against themselves because they don't understand. Sometimes it's possible that sometimes people will fight against their own interests because they do not have a comprehension of the entire image or the whole picture. Another one is, of course, oil. So you have oil deposits here, so these people are getting really rich, and the entire world relies on oil. So if these guys try to keep all the oil to themselves, and these guys don't want to keep all the oil to themselves, but they want to keep it open for everybody, then I would say that if these people go in by force and make it so that trade remains the same, the status quo remains the same, because it is an even playing ground for everybody, basically, then these guys are in the let's say, if not the right camp, they are in the more ethically correct camp, because they don't want to destroy these guys either. They want the oil to flow in every direction. So that is basically the current situation. So we have the let's call it, because things are very militaristic, let's call it the NATO side is the orange side here, and this is the people that NATO, a defensive alliance, is made to defend against. So this is a defensive alliance, which means that if one of them is attacked, then they will attack. If one of them is militarily attacked, they will all defend each other, but they will not commit to any sort of offensive action. So you have a lot of different nations, big and small here, who want to keep this trade open for everybody. So before, I'd say 2014, before 2021, things were working fine because everybody was trading on equal grounds, and then it was a competition of nonviolence, basically. But somebody decided that they are going to try to improve their position, and why they would do that is because in the future, if there's another little village here, if they take over this village on the river here, they will have double the power. Having double the power means that they can begin to overcome these obstacles here. So it is in everybody's interests to shield this village by any means necessary, even if it means going to war, basically, in a foreign territory that doesn't seem important, but it is very important. So in this example, Ukraine has a lot of food and of course a lot of population and a lot of land mass and all kinds of stuff. So if someone starts breaking rules and breaking the deals we had, then we start to get into an increasing circle of violence, which is an arms race. So it is one side gets more arms and the other side needs to get more arms because the other side gets more arms, and it becomes an ever increasing circle, sort of, and you need to cut it out, basically. You need to stop it, but both need to stop it. It doesn't help that if one stops it. So well-intentioned fools exist, and they look at all of this and they're like, stop the insanity. But in this case, the best solution is that these people are fighting their own war. They weren't ready for it, really, because they allowed these guys to corrupt them. So these guys would send money in. It didn't work fully, but it worked enough to create instability. And now we're in a situation where these people, or let's say this is equipment, because we as NATO, we're not sending people in at this point. I wish we would, but we're sending in equipment and all kinds of stuff for these people to fight their war, even though they messed up. It's very important that they do, because the result is that if this is completely taken over and these are taken over, this increases to this, threat level increases immensely, their army becomes very large, and all the equipment that we were making, we need to start making more than the enemy does. And when we have to start doing that, the result is not pretty, because there is going to be a clash in Greentown. And we can sort of assume that no one in the interior, Russians have been pushed very hard, and they're still in the game, basically. The ones who aren't have left, and some of them are fighting for the other side, because that's the right thing to do, basically. That's the most sane thing to do. If you don't care about anything else, and you care about justice, you'll join this side, basically. If you care about the sort of global situation and what will become of this if this side is allowed to just, do whatever they want, then you will fight for this side. The only reason you would ever fight for this side is that you have the opportunity to become the king, or at least a minor king. That's just, he's the emperor, and these are minor kings here. And you have a chance of doing it. And that requires that you constantly look this way, and you have no interest in what happens behind you, basically. So you're constantly looking that way, trying to get here, and it will never happen, basically. It will happen for, let's say out of 100 million people, it will happen to maybe 7 or 10 people. So you're not going to go there. So what you should do is cut this thing up, join the other side, do whatever you can. But there is absolutely no reason to fight for this side, because you're a bottom feeder in a society that will never give you anything. No matter how much you win, no matter how much work you do, it's going to be taken away from you. And that's how things are right now. So maybe in the future, I mean, NATO is, I think it's missing a clause that has 2 NATO countries fighting each other. It would be nice that it would have a clause that 2 NATO countries are not allowed to fight each other. And then you can just keep inviting countries into your defensive alliance. Because if, let's say, these guys, for example, Turkey is very questionable, these guys get out of control and start attacking, it doesn't matter to the defensive alliance, because these guys were the aggressor, and we know what an aggressor is. Some, I would call them useful idiots, have started to believe the propaganda, or they've been confused by the propaganda, so they no longer know what an aggressor is. So I'll just cover that. An aggressor is the one who makes the first move in whatever way it is, aggressively to try to disrupt the other country from doing their basic stuff, doing stuff that you yourself hypocritically want to do or are doing. You try to stop someone else from doing that. So if we start inviting everybody to the defensive alliance that cannot allow war between the nations, then you will soon, you will soon accomplish peace, because everybody will be in on it together, and everybody is by law required to stop the aggressor. And this also needs to be taken into consideration, where Turkey is a good example in this as well, because they control a certain straits, a certain waterway, and a certain sea, basically. So if they start messing around, they create problems. So in the deals, it says that they need to allow all these people to move through the water as freely as they want, in let's say a non-aggressive fashion. And that's how a sort of law book keeps getting longer and longer, but it all has its purpose and precedent and whatnot. And sometimes you can simplify the law a little bit, but this is how basically everything works. And don't be this guy, don't be the eyeball here in the corner, because it's very annoying, and it usually, because it lacks like self-reflection, the eyeball won't turn around and look this way where it should. It's like, well, oh shit, maybe I am actually perpetrating my own destruction here unnecessarily, and just based on my laziness and my emotional response and whatever internal issues one might have. So I guess that concludes it. A little bit longer than I thought it would be, but just to cover all the different bases as much as possible, but still remaining relatively simple. So geopolitics for babies. Goodbye.